Ohayo gozaimasu. Ohayo gozaimasu. My name is Songyi. Welcome to our panel. So we will start with the three of us, and if Xin arrives, then we probably welcome him over there. So this topic is something that is, doesn't feel like so close to us, but for many of us, it should be very close to us. We're talking about today global majority, which is global south, and oftentimes people talk about global south and the global north, but global south is actually where all the populations are, and if we're building something, we should consider where they are and who they are, and understand, what kind of trouble and challenges they're facing, so we can actually build a solution together. So today we have a great panelist from Africa, Yoseph, and then Jack from Latin America, Songyi from Asia. So myself, I'm not going to share too much unless there is a certain thing that I need to share about Asia. But I am catalyst of Pagoda, which is alliance of Ethereum ecosystem builder in Asia. So if you're building anything Ethereum ecosystem related thing, come talk to me later. But without further ado, I will love to hear from you guys. And please give us a quick introduction why you should be actually sharing this topic in this stage. Probably start with Jack.
Absolutely. Hi, everyone. A pleasure to be here. I'm Jack Saracco. I'm born and raised in Argentina, Latin America. I'm building a Plasma Free with the INTMAX team, and I have vast experience in the Latin American market by providing fiat on and off ramp and payment rails throughout the last 6 years, and building Web3 communities and projects around crypto to enable access to the majority in the mass market.
Hi, everybody. My name is Yoseph, and I spend a lot of my time supporting builders across the African ecosystem, predominantly the individuals who are building the tools and applications that are bringing crypto tools and primitives to meet the real needs people actually have across the continent, which we'll talk about more.
Yeah, so today we only have 20 more minutes to go, and there's a lot to share because we're going to cover a huge land of the history and everything. So we want to hear from Yoseph first. What is happening in Africa, and then tell us what's the as-is of African continent, and then maybe we can hear from Jack, same thing from Latin America, and then we're going to cover some of the best use cases, what Plasma or decentralized technology can do, and then we will go from there.
I'm just going to do a very brief intro of the African ecosystem because many of us don't understand it. I like to use this map just to show actually how massive the African continent is. You can fit the US, India, China, most of Europe, as well as Eastern Europe in the continent. So it's huge. And beyond that as well, we have a huge population, and you can see the age distribution. So the bottom line is the youngest, and the top is the oldest. So when you compare us to all the major regions in the world, we are the youngest population. And I want to compare us with Japan here. It is quite a stark difference. Our median age is 19. Your median age is 49. Population is 1.4 billion, and Japan is 122. So you can see basically a lot of young people and a very small number of old people. When we look at the forecast for the next 25 years by 2050, our median age is just going to increase from 19 to 25. While in Japan, we're going to be around 53. And our population is expected to double. So we're adding 2 whole Europe to the African population size. So this just gives you a very brief sort of context of where we are. We're very much internet native ecosystem. Internet penetration is growing at 6% year over year. A lot of our builders, devs, are self-taught, and almost all of us access the internet on our mobile phones. And that's been very much transformative. We have actually a lot of people growing to contribute to GitHub. So open source is growing at a very large scale. We've got several million Africans contributing to open source software through GitHub. As I mentioned earlier, mobile phones is really where the action is at. There are 93 subscriptions for every 100 Africans. Last year, we transacted over almost $1 trillion on mobile money, which is basically your phone number is your bank account. And crypto transactions, we hit 120 billion last year. And about 10 to 20% of the major economies, population has used crypto. A lot of it is in US dollar stablecoin. And a lot of the challenges that we have still actually comes back to the very simple sides of financial application. So in terms of getting a loan, a lot of businesses run on loans. We pay 10 to 27% a month interest rate to actually access different types of loans. We have major inflation, and there's huge shortages of dollars. How many of you here drink coffee? Okay, a lot of hands. How many of you guys have drunk Ethiopian coffee? Knowing or unknowingly, right? So, for example, where I'm from, Ethiopia, we sell coffee, the growers sell coffee at a loss because that's the fastest way for them to access US dollars, right? So our biggest commodity is being sold at a loss because we need more dollars. So we have a huge dollar price discrepancy between the bank rate and the market rate or the black market rate. So it's a very unique, complex challenge that we have there, and we're 54 countries, so to send money across, we have to use the global financial system, we have to use SWIFT, and we spend 7 to 15% of every transaction on fees just to send money across borders, right? These are a lot of the friction points that we have. Lastly, 500 million of us don't have any legal ID. 40 African countries don't even print our money locally. So we actually get our money printed in the UK, Germany, and France, which is a major issue. And there's another area of topic which I'm not going to get into. It's much bigger than this, but 14 African countries don't even control their monetary policy. So when it comes to sort of real-world challenges, we have a lot of them. And so we're really trying to address these complex issues, and we're very excited what Ethereum and crypto can do for us.
Thank you so much. We'd love to unpack more than all these challenges. How can Ethereum and then decentralized technology can help? We'd love to hear from Latam.
Absolutely. Very similar to what Yoseph said. Latin America is a 700 million population throughout the globe. Our main issue is both getting money in and inflation. Latin America has a huge inflationary economy. Argentina's last year inflation was 150% yearly, and throughout the course of this year has been around 80%. We, as Latin Americans, save in dollars, save in our strong fiat currency, however that is. And today, the crypto use case and the most use case we find is a way to remit money back home and being able to save in a strong currency not owned by the banks, meaning that having your own stable coins and your own wallets, you are the one owning those funds, you're the one having those funds, and bank can't seize those funds. We had 21 years ago, we had a bank run, and people unfortunately lost a lot of money, couldn't retrieve their money from the banks because the banks basically closed. And very similar to Africa, we lose a lot on the international FX. We have an official rate in Argentina where it's 50%. So everyone that exports any type of service, it's first converted at a 50% loss in a way and then taxed. So that's why crypto is so big in Argentina. Everyone's getting their funds through crypto into the native rails, into the domestic payment rails, and most of it goes through a cash P2P transactions. That accounts for 70% of the local economic market. We have 70% informal economy, around 70%, and 30% formal economy, meaning formal economy being domestic bank transfers and electronic payments, and 70% being crypto payments or fiat cash in, cash out methods.
Yeah, thank you so much, Jack. They touched upon a little bit of like use cases. You talk about remittance and so on. Back to Africa, what do you think there is like a use case that start to kick off from the ground that is using crypto technology or any of the things that you see?
Right. So, so I spent a lot of my time working with many of the ambitious founders on the continent who are actually building the core financial infrastructures of the continent. And the pattern that we're seeing right now that will be huge and exciting in the next 5 to 10 years are basically building a new type of bank that is on-chain, that is not one entity, but it's actually a lot of different pieces of a Lego that provide the services that people need, the very simple services. Well, I'm not talking about like DeFi, DGen type of products. I'm talking very, very, very simple, the stuff that 1 billion plus people can use, from payments, from savings, credit, escrow management, creating different types of transactions that are cross-border, insurance, like the foundations that actually make an economy function and work. Because even though we've done really well in payments locally, that's within a specific country. When you're trying to do payments at a global stage, it's very challenging. So, for example, I've been talking to some folks here. So I'm a fan of what NosiSafe has been doing and the debit card. I don't know if you guys have seen it around, but we have many African builders that have actually been doing that for like more than a year. That's because people are buying crypto with US dollar stablecoin, putting it on their wallet, and then the wallet issues them a debit card to be able to spend that globally. And why are we excited about that? That's because our banks don't allow us to spend our money from the bank globally. They have a limit. They have a limit of $10, $20, very low caps, and that's in the major economies, right? So getting an actual global debit card that you can use with your crypto wallet is like a must-have if you want to subscribe to like a Google product that costs $12. And those are the types of problems that we're trying to solve. The other part that I'm really excited about and seeing a wave is around stablecoins. And I'm not talking about just US dollar stablecoins. These are localized stablecoins. And the reason is that at the moment, in this very specific moment, the cost of payment transaction with a bank or mobile money is 5 to 10 times more expensive than running a transaction on an Ethereum layer 2. So we can actually save users 90% plus fees that they pay with existing bank transactions or mobile money payments as it is. As I mentioned to you earlier, we're 54 countries, right? So let's say you and I are neighboring countries. If we're trying to trade anything, my money goes through like a US bank all over the world, wait 5 days and come back to you. During that time, my country's currency would have fluctuated, your currency would have fluctuated as well. And we both have to use dollars. So there's a lot of movement and interest going to how do we actually just move the dollar from the medium of exchange to a unit of account? And what that means is actually deploying a lot of different types of stable coins across multiple countries. So those are the types of things. And lastly, identity and reputation, bringing trust on chain. When you have hundreds of millions of people not having any form of legal ID, bringing that on chain instead of like selling that to some foreign corporate that's going to put that in centralized service, and it's going to be too expensive for us to afford. So these are the types of projects I think people are working on building. They're not like 3-year DeFi projects that you're going to see sort of going up and down. These are things that will be the core infrastructures that succeed. So this takes time, and that's why the world doesn't seem to keep paying much attention, at least in the crypto world, because a lot of other things are moving faster than this, but this is actually stuff that will last for a long period of time.
Yeah, to close off like the use cases, Jack, do you have anything else that you want to introduce from LATAM?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Extremely similar to what Yoseph said. We offer, I built a fiat on off-ramp infrastructure in the past. We do offer the debit card as a service to different exchanges, wallets, and ecosystems that want to give the end user the ability to pay everyday coffee, everyday retail shop with crypto, enabling people that are getting paid abroad, people that do remittances, the availability to spend those funds in every single day usage, not having to go through the domestic banking rails today. We offer, super similar to Africa, the same USDT international transactions. When you pay providers from China, from Asia, from the rest of Latin American countries, most of the domestic rails right now are extremely inefficient, take too much time. They're all dollar denominated, and they find that the best way to execute cross-border, fast cross-border payments is always through a crypto stablecoin. Mostly, or 99% of them, is USD, USDT, or USDC today. I think that whenever regionalized fiat currencies and fiat stablecoins are starting to go live in every single country, everyone would have their own, and basically the swap mechanism the fees will start decreasing because the conglomeration of liquidity generates that market efficiencies that today are dominated by banks or central companies that do that cross-border payments. We are seeing so much of a decrease in time, lead time, and spread and FX that everyone sees the benefit of doing their cross-border payments in stablecoins.
Sorry, I just want to speak on our behalf to kind of like bring it together, is that I want to bring it to funding and capital allocation and resource allocation. There's hundreds of millions, billions of dollars flowing around in the crypto economy right now around the world as grants, as investments, liquidity providers, and all of that. And actually, very little of that is actually going to regions in Latin America, and a lot less is coming to the African ecosystem. I was at a dinner during EthCC with a bunch of founders, and some of them were joking, saying that they made it, when raising as a project, they made a mistake showing revenue, because when they start showing revenue, it was very less likely for them to actually get funding, because it kind of puts them in a trap. And I have a bit of an issue with that, because yeah, you can have all the types of business models, but the interesting thing that the types of projects that are being built here in Africa are, these are actually taking crypto primitives to the real people. And that stuff lasts a long time. So in Africa last year, we had crypto on-chain transactions were going up during the bear market. Right, this is like, it's different from the speculative cycles. It was going up during the bear market. And these are the types of things that are real businesses, real projects. So I'd encourage people who are allocating resources, really think about the long-term lens of even how you can do grants or allocate capital, because the value creation is a lot higher and more value created for a lot less money.
Mm-hmm. Thank you so much. I mean, like looking back, hearing back from these two, like one thing that really struck to me is like, imagine having crypto as a debit card and spending everyday life. Those sounds ridiculous to me as a Korean, and so you guys are Japanese. Like, why would people spend crypto on daily basis? And that's like how different the market is. But actually, the real world use case is actually from these regions, right? How many of you guys are actually building something for global market? Okay. Don't be shy. It's okay. Raise your hands. Okay. So many of you guys, at least a minimum of half of you guys. And I strongly recommend for you guys to actually go visit. And we can, because our friends from Africa and Latin cannot come here because of the visa issue. There's so many issues why we don't see them. It's not they're not building, because they cannot come. So I strongly recommend everybody to, just explore more and go and meet the real user, a real global majority, to really what is needed, to this world, and that we can use and contribute to the world. So very last question, we have a 3-minute for you guys. It's quite difficult, but what makes a plasma or decentralized? Hi, we have a 3-minute. Yes, he's going to be here sitting, smiling. We actually going to the very last question, but Xin, just adding you here. Want to hear from very last words, maybe 1 minute each, about like what this decentralized technology is actually make it special in your region, and then what do you think is the attraction point?
Absolutely. I think you touched on two main points. One is this decentralization, and the other is plasma technology. I think that everyday use case. Ethereum built an amazing new technology where we started building 10 years ago, and it iterated until what we find today. When you find real use cases in Latin America and Africa and like the entire world, mostly is transaction cost related. So you're gonna find that the main use cases are where lowest fees are found, and decentralization might be pro or con in certain aspects. You'll find that today, Tron is the largest used network in Latin America to do cross-border payments. It accounts for 90% of the volume of USDT. And I think that Plasma, with its technology to reduce fees and grow horizontally on the user acquisition side, you're going to find that so many projects are going to start seeing Plasma as the next technology in order to build the layer up and start having instant, quasi-instant, and quasi-free transactions to execute all the real-life payments that we have today. If you start counting transactions per second, or you use as benchmark Visa or MasterCard rails, which are today's financial benchmarks, Plasma has the availability and the potential to reach there and have those transactions per second and enable cross-region, cross-city, cross-world transactions in a matter of seconds and extremely low fees, which enable every single day to use either card spending, remittance, sending funds to a friend, Venmoing someone funds. I think that's the main use case.
Very briefly, why I like decentralization in this context is because centralization has, I think Africa's, a lot of these challenges today are because of the challenges of centralization, and we're trapped. We're trapped under it, and there's no kind of real way out of it. We have less bargaining power. We don't have a lot of capital in order to compete, and a lot of the historical context makes it really hard to kind of win in the existing centralized structures, and we end up losing out and shut out from the global economy. So the best path that we have is infrastructure that no one owns, is neutral. We can build and shape it to however we want to do it. We don't have to ask anyone's permission. That's a game changer. And when you have new paradigm technologies and infrastructures, you are able to build from first principles instead of carry the weight of everything that's been around for a long time. So that's to me is what's most exciting. And we'll see things that we haven't seen in other regions before because we're a very unique ecosystem.
Sorry for being late. So for this question, like you're asking basically what's the technology that made me so excited with my community, right?
So we're talking about the Africa and the Latam, and so you can probably talk a little bit about where you're coming from, which is, I guess, Asia. And we actually over time, so maybe I already sent you the previous question. Is there one thing that you want audience to know before you leave this?
So I'm based in North America, in New York, and also I'm pretty active in the digital nomad community. So I think one thing I realized, especially in New York, is like consumer apps. So I think there's definitely a high demand for like high performance blockchains, because there's actually more and more like, say in New York, there's an app called Blackbird. It's basically a decentralized version Yelp. So you can use to rate different restaurants. So you can get points from every restaurant. Basically in a sense, like every restaurant launched their own token. So basically, right? So basically for the customers, I think it's great, consumer engagement and stuff. And there's a lot of consumer app in New York. Also, there's an online dating show called Unlonely. That's pretty exciting in New York. There's a lot of people are crazy about the show. So consumer app is very essential. So I think that's why, by the way, Base have so high transaction volume. I think there's paved the way for future Monad and also INTMAX. It's kind of like so fast and cheap blockchains. But for digital nomad community, I think identities make more sense, because I'm Chinese. I'm holding Chinese passport. We have team members from India. Like we go to a lot of places, we need a visa. Say this time I was trying to go to Japan. It took me like 2-3 weeks ahead to apply visas. So there's a lot of problems about ID. There's different countries have their digital nomads visas, and I think there will definitely someone is working on put them together, make sure like there's an all-in-one identity solution or something to make sure people can travel or work more freely. Yeah.
Thank you so much. Thank you for joining, everybody. I will just end with one sentence like, as you could hear, from the consumer app to the very simple finance to the, some semi-finance with a functionality. Every region is building something different because the targets are very different. But it's not one is more important, one is less. But we have to actually collaborate to build something amazing. So please, pay attention to different regions. And you guys are in Asia. Take responsibility and find what you can do. And we trust in you guys. And Japanese community is amazing. So thank you so much for having us. And then feel free to talk to us later today. Thank you.